not much difference. It's more that crofting is it's specific to Scotland, it's specific to the north and the west of Scotland, and it's basically a kind of a legal land holding. So you have to work your croft and you have to live on or within 32 kilometres of your croft. And crofting is generally what, you know, in farming we would call marginal land. So it's the roughy tufty, heathery moorland, bit of bog, obviously. And that's what we've got. So heather hillside, we've got woodland, we've got bog, and then we have a little bit of in-by land. So again, looking at it agriculturally, which, you know, fortunately 4.5 years ago we weren't, we just saw this massive potential on this really exciting, you know, dynamic bit of land with these incredible habitats. And it was that naivety that I think has meant that we've been able to build the business that we have today.
So we've called tonight the stack effect. So we're going to talk about how you've managed to stack all these enterprises on top of each other. Yeah. But just talk us through your enterprises that you've built up.
Okay, so well, I did a little bit of a brainstorming session earlier, and you know, we started with eggs because eggs are very easy. It's very straightforward. You know, you have some hens, you have a hen house. We live on a fairly busy road. It's a tourist route. So we plonked an egg box at the top of the track and then sold eggs via our honesty box. So that was kind of our first little enterprise that we started with. We've now expanded that to 13 enterprises. So 13. 13, yeah. So we have 13 individual. I could probably make it a bit more than that because I lumped a few together, but you know, I didn't want to melt your minds. So we have 13 enterprises, all of which are income generating, but all of which are built on the foundations of what we do here, which is producing food. Okay, so it's kind of just really expanding that. So just to kind of summarize the main enterprises, and we can go into more detail as you want, but we have eggs, which we sell via our honesty box and a subscription club. We do seasonal beef boxes, we do seasonal pork boxes, we do honey, we have our meat club, and we do some contract butchery out of our micro butchery. We do public tours, we do private tours, we do group tours, we do courses and a little bit of consulting work whenever we're asked. We do talks, we're writing a book, and we do some other writing as well. And we're just about to launch our holiday rental, hopefully next spring. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the main enterprises. And I suppose when I was reading about it today, the enterprise, if you can describe it at that, which we don't do, is we don't take any annual basic payment subsidy here at Lynbreck. We've accessed capital grants, so we've accessed grants to do fencing, to do building renovations, to build a barn, to plant woodland, but we don't take any basic payment. And the reason for doing that is mainly twofold. One is because our land has been basically classified entirely at the lowest tier. Financially, it didn't really make an awful lot of sense to sign up to, I guess, a whole load of rules and regulations that we didn't really understand. And it just didn't really seem to, what we felt, reflect the true value of our land holding. And the second reason is because we always wanted to build a business, and I think that's the really important word here, is business, that would stand on its own 2 feet, irrespective of what the government or the EU or anybody else decides to do. So all of our enterprises, even though, you know, their outreach, their food production, their tourism, they all come back to food production at Lynbreck.
I have returned. Hopefully you can hear me.
Much better.
I had a Wi-Fi issue, if you hadn't guessed. So in terms of, this is a slightly dull question, but in terms of those 13 enterprises, do you cost them? Do you know which one's generating the most revenue?
Yeah, so I also did a little bit of percentages earlier. I'm really not great at maths. We have an accountant, thank God. But I decided to kind of roughly break it down into sort of income. So if you lump it into produce, outreach, and holiday rental, the produce we get about 35% of our income stream from, so that's our direct sales. Our outreach, we generate about 27% of our income from. And our holiday rental, we predict, in taking it all into account, will generate about 38% of our income. So it very roughly breaks down into thirds. And I guess, honestly, we're still working our finances out. You know, I think when you start a new business, year on year, you know, you learn something new, you're refining things, you're changing things around. But I would say out of all of those three, the ones that generate the most, so that's kind of gross profit, the ones that generate the most kind of annual profit, the biggest profit margin, are probably the outreach. And that's because we have such low costs associated with that, unless you quantify our time as part of it, in which case it's probably equal to a lot of others.
And which one do you enjoy the most of those three areas?
So I suppose if you were to ask Sandra and that each individually, we'd probably say different things. So I do really enjoy the outreach side of things, but in that I take huge pride in delivering our produce. So, you know, we're well, I say about 95% local sales. So everything, you know, about 95% is all sold locally. And we deliver ourselves, we bring our produce direct to our customers. So that's a kind of a crossover with the outreach. And I really, really enjoy that, because you're developing these unique relationships with the people who you're feeding. And that's very, very humbling in many respects. And it builds in, I think, a real resilience to your business, because you get to know each other. I'd say Sandra probably enjoys the produce side of things. So she's our animal handler. She's our Dr. Doolittle. She's incredible with the animals. She's also our chief butcher. So she'll kind of process all of our pork, and she butchers part of the beef. And so she creates all these amazing things. So yeah, that's probably part and part.
Someone's just asked, Lynn, about when you say outreach, you mean going out to do talks or having people to the farm, don't you?
Yeah, so it's basically engagement. So it's engagement, which includes, so we do a monthly public tour. So I suppose if I kind of retract a little bit, we've never wanted to make what we do exclusive, okay, in any way. And that's our produce, and that's our, you know, the work that we've learned about and all the experiences that we've been making. We don't want to make any of it exclusive. So we try and get the message out in all sorts of ways. So obviously we do social media. We have a YouTube channel. I am absolutely horrible at vlogging, but I try. But, you know, we try and kind of get our message out there as much as possible. And that's obviously all, you know, free for people to use and see as they want. Then we do a monthly public tour. So they run from March to November. We can be under snow from December onwards. So we kind of have a little bit of a break over the winter. And we charge £15 a head. People come here, they're here for 3 hours, they get a cup of tea, they get a homemade biscuit, and we walk around and we talk about the work that we do. Then we can do private tours. So the private tours are a bit more expensive, and that's really just to reflect the fact that, you know, we're taking time out of our daily work to bring people around and show them what we do. And then we do group tours as well. So we work with a few holiday companies locally. So they'll pay us a fixed fee, and we'll bring people onto the farm. We'll give them a tour, and then we add on lunch as well if they want to. And we'll have like a barbecue lunch. You know, we'll make some, you know, Lynbreck sausages over some of our own charcoal and that kind of thing. So that's main outreach. But I would also include in that our courses. So we wrote a course, we called it How to Farm, because that's what we were learning to do. We were learning how to farm, and it's the kind of course that we wanted to exist when we were starting out. So it's really, it kind of, you know, it covers some elements like animal handling, but a lot of it is about the business side of things. It's a lot of is understanding the business side of things, understanding it in the context of agriculture, marketing, sales. It's really trying to give people the tools to do this full time, if that's what they want to do.
So you went on a holistic management course, and that, I think when we spoke last time, you said that kind of made everything clearer, turned things around in your heads.
Yeah, so originally I went on a holistic management course myself in 2017, early on in 2017, and I met Rob Havard there. And I came back to Lynbreck and I was all like, oh my, what, I've built this amazing course, it's great. And it was that kind of classic thing of whenever you kind of go on a course and then you come home and tell your partner and they weren't there, you were there, and you're going, oh yeah, but like, there's this and this, and they're going, well, really? And you're going, oh, this is really frustrating. So I kind of went, so what I realized was how much we needed to go on this course together. So anyway, we kind of did a little bit more of kind of talking and kind of learning things our own way. And then we got to do another course together in 2019. And it was actually the same guy who'd come over from Canada to take the course. And it was just revolutionary, really. And it was a 3-day course. So it was, the first day was all about setting your holistic goal, your holistic context. And that's when you really sit down and, you just go, look, what are we trying to do here? What's our life about? What do we want to do? Do we want to make money? Do we want to be happy? What's our focus? And then the second day was kind of about grazing. So that's where the elements of the holistic plan grazing came into it. And then the third day was about financial planning. And we just found it superb because it just put everything into a context, and it meant that Sandra and I could sit down and tease out between one another what exactly it was that we wanted. And from that point, I just feel like we've come on leaps and bounds. And even before then, we were obviously, we were doing pretty well. We were on a really good trajectory. But from that point on, when we wrote our holistic context, it just felt a lot more chilled. It just felt a lot more, okay, we've kind of, oiled the gears here. Now we can really, really go for this. And I feel like our work-life balance has dramatically improved, and our quality of life has dramatically improved from that point onwards.
Do you think that's partly because you've stopped doing the bits that aren't relevant? If that's not quite the right word, but do you mean it's made you focus massively in terms of what you want to do?
Yeah, I think in general, we all have a tendency to look at what everybody else is doing, don't we? And we judge ourselves against other people, and we think, oh, they're doing that, or maybe I should try that. And sometimes that's really great because you can get, ideas for enterprises, or Nick, you've got an Eggmobile. We have an Eggmobile as well, and we pretty much pinched the design from Richard Perkins, and you can get all these inspired from looking at other people. But actually, what it is that you're about can only really come from you, and you have to be incredibly honest with yourself in order to do that. And I think that's really the key to any successful business, is identifying what it is that you really want to do, and then you just go for it.
So talking about just going for it, so just if we can just talk a little bit about your meat club.
Yes.
And how difficult it was, or was it difficult? It might not be in Scotland. Was it difficult to set up your micro butchery? Was the whole process, was it a lot of learning, or was it quite simple? Or
so I'll kind of, I guess I'll start talking a little bit about Meat Club and how it kind of came about, because before then we just used to sell meat as and when it was available. So here at Lynbreck, we don't carry large numbers of animals, and the main reason that we don't carry large numbers of animals is because we try to only carry the number that will benefit the land in a positive way, so have a good environmental impact. And that's what we're really trying to kind of figure out. So our numbers are not huge, which is trying to reflect the natural capability of the land. So we were kind of releasing these sort of seasonal meat boxes, and we're kind of starting to build up our local network. And the meat boxes are the kind of things that obviously we do a lot of work to explain what it is that we do. So the meat is a premium, it's higher than supermarket meat. So it was kind of thinking, well, we don't want our meat to be exclusive. there was that element. And then there was the kind of continuity of supply. So, you know, we were maybe, if we were selling seasonal meat boxes, we'd maybe only be selling 4 times a year. And, you know, what about the rest of the year? We didn't want to lose contact with our, you know, our local community and our customers. So we decided to stick with the seasonal meat boxes and release those as and when they became available. But what we would also do was keep some of that meat back and create a subscription club. So we started what's called the Little Mountain Meat Club, because we're on the side of a little mountain. Genius. And we decided to offer it to local people, only local people, again, within I guess a 20-mile radius roughly of the croft. And people would sign up for a year and they'd pay in advance. And they, in return, they would get a little bit of our added value meat. So something kind of really special. So Meat Club works out at about £6.50 a month. So that's all it is. And by doing that, we were making our produce, we felt, a little bit more accessible to people who maybe wouldn't want to shell out, you know, on a big meat box at a time. Yes, they'd be paying in advance for a year, but they'd get the deliveries for a year. So they could really kind of see a little bit more. And it was something exciting. It was something that they could look forward to. They wouldn't know what they were going to get. And they couldn't specify what they did or didn't like, you know, so it was kind of a, you know, this week you're going to get, this month you might get this, the following month, you know, you don't know. So we had this idea, and but obviously we didn't have a butchery at that point. So there was something called the Dean Organic Fund, which is a pot of money that is administered by the Organic Research Centre. And we kind of saw this, opportunity come up where you could get a 5-year interest-free loan to do something that would enhance your sort of small business, as long as you were farming either organically or ecologically. So we kind of costed it out, put in for the Dean Organic Fund, got it. And what was really good about that was we basically had to put in a business plan, and they really put us through our paces for it. So we had to show ourselves that within 5 years of the investment, the butchery would have paid itself off, because we didn't want it to be a financial burden to us as well. So that really made us kind of, you know, be really kind of particular. So we got the funding in place, and then we basically went straight to environmental health, and we said, okay, you know, what do we need to do here? We fortunately had a really good relationship with our environmental health officer, who came out to visit us on the croft, who talked us through what it was that we needed to do, and basically left it up to us. So we kitted out the butchery, really kind of quite high spec, because we had the investment to do so. And we've always believed here that if we can get the investment to do something, we do it really well. You know, there's loads of stuff I think, I just want to do this once and I never want to do this ever again. So we put in a really high spec butchery, and then got environmental health back out and said, you know, what do you think? And she had a good look around. And at the time, that's when we also had to start writing basically your manuals. So we had to write what's called a HACCP, so a hazard. I can't remember. I can never remember the full kind of
control something plan as the end. Critical control points.
That's it. Genius.
Hazard awareness and critical control points.
Oh, Liz is so on it.
Over to you, Liz.
Third time lucky. Sorry, it's like a quiz. I like them. I apologise.
Oh, I'm so impressed. So we had to do a HACCP, and then we had to write house rules. So she gave us basically these folders, and they're really they're kind of like a bit of a manual that you then write your own manual to. So you write out all your house rules, you write out your whole kind of risk assessment. And again, I'm not one for bureaucracy, but that was actually a really good exercise, because we had to go through those folders with a fine-tooth comb and then write what would basically become our rules and our way of monitoring what it is that we do to ensure that the food that goes out is as safe as we can make it. So it's the kind of thing that makes you sleep at night, you know, that you've written those rules, you know what it is that you have to do. So that's what you stick to. once that was all in place, again, we had another, you know, we ran it all by the environmental health officer, and as soon as she was happy and content with everything that we were doing and that we would stick to those rules, then we could kind of get started. So you know, it was, you know, on reflection, I think we thought it was going to be awful, and it really wasn't. We found it really supportive, and actually a lot of it made a lot of sense. And then once we had that facility in place, we could then start the meat club. So the meat club, it's so much fun. It's so much fun for us. It's kind of terrifying. It's kind of terrifying fun. But it means that we can come up with lots of ideas of produce that we send out to our customers every month. So, you know, like last month, we had our cheese sausage. So we make, you know, we get our pork, we source organic cheddar from our local cheesemonger, and then we make it into this like amazing sausage, which just, you know, melted cheese just oozes out. Or we'll do like, you know, we'll get some of our Highland beef, and we'll smoke it and cure it, but we'll smoke it over, you know, whiskey oak smoke, something like that. You know, we're in Speyside. This is whiskey country. You know, we're going to try jerky in a couple of months. We do, you know, all sorts of different, we do bratwurst, you know, we send different things out every month, and then our customers are incredibly honest with us, and they'll tell us if it's been a bit rubbish, or, you know, but I think the beauty about it is that we really feel that they're part of it, and we hope that they feel that they're part of it. And so part of what they buy into is that, but they know that we try our best, and that we'll always try and come up with something new to keep the club interesting and exciting for people.
Guessing Joseph wants to...
Just a few quick questions just before we move on too much. Just kind of going back a few steps. The course you mentioned, who ran it, or who was the speaker for that 3-day course?
Oh, so it was run by Holistic Management International, and it was a guy called Tony. Oh, I can't remember. He's an American. He's a Canadian. Yeah, Tony. He's an Canadian farmer. And yeah, he was brought over by the Soil Association. I cannot for the life of me remember his second name. I hope he does not watch this on YouTube. I will be mortified.
Well, I'm sure he does. Sure.
No, he better not.
Obviously. The next question, you can plead the fifth on: how much do you charge for your private tours?
Oh, it's on our website. It's £36 per hour. That includes VAT.
Cool. So just one or two on the kind of the slaughtering side. So where do you get the slaughtering done? So how is it done, or do you send them to a local abattoir?
Yeah, so we are obviously bound by the same rules that everybody else is. If we want to sell the meat to the public, we are ridiculously fortunate, even though we live in a fairly, you know, rural area in comparison to the rest of the UK. We have 2 abattoirs within an hour of the croft. So we can basically pick and choose which one we want to use. And that is a phenomenal position to be in, a phenomenal advantage that we have, that I think it's actually worth saying that we never ever thought about that when we were buying Lynbreck. I mean, one of the many millions of things we never thought about was kind of availability of abattoirs. You know, you just don't. But to have that, and it's something that we try and really celebrate, is having that. And I think it's actually one of the benefits of being a croft, because crofting is a very Scottish thing. It's a very cultural Scottish thing. It's a very political thing. And one of the abattoirs in particular pretty much deals with the vast majority of all the crofts in Scotland. So if that goes, crofting goes. And I can't see politically that would be allowed, but hey, who knows?
And then just kind of on the box, because as you mentioned, it's a quarterly box sale. How many animals average do you usually send off?
So we carry 12 pigs a year, and we'll send 2 to 3 cattle off a year.
The last one, which you can feel if you want to answer now or have a bit of time to think, but just you kind of touched on it there, about obviously the local abattoir and the viability. So this question here, your approach is very unique in the area. How do you see the future viability of crofting in general?
I would say that I see an incredibly positive future. for crofting if crofting continues or starts to, however you would want to interpret it, to move with a 21st century model. And I think really that's what we're trying to showcase here at Lynbreck. So, oh yeah, okay, we have a very, very large croft. You know, it is not normal to have a croft that is 150 acres, but there's a huge amount that you can do with your land, and you don't need an awful lot of land to do it. You know, people like Richard Perkins showcase that perfectly. Now, not everybody has Richard Perkins land, not everybody has Richard Perkins, you know, market, but what he does show is that, you know, you work with what you've got and you tap into what it is that you have and you maximize on it. And I think that today there is huge scope for doing that. So I think it's a really positive, I think there's a really positive future. And just sort of coming back to actually your last question about the number of animals that we carry. So I was saying earlier that we carry only the amount of animals that we feel is right for the land. In terms of our market, I reckon that we would probably have, just with what we have now, we could probably sell between 2 and 3 times more than what we produce, reflecting the demand that we have for our produce. So you know, it's kind of putting that out there that there, you know, once you work at a market, I really do think it's there. It's just really untapping it.
And then the last question for now, do you think it's been more of an advantage than a hindrance that you weren't from a farming background?
Oh, it's the big question. It's the big question. How many people here are farmers? How many people am I going to like mortify myself in front of? So yes, I feel that ultimately it was an advantage. Now, in the early days, I would have said that I felt it was a disadvantage. You know, we came into it not understanding the language. You know, people were talking about, you know, yows and tups and steers and heifers, and I didn't know what any of those things were. I was like, there's a cow and there's a sheep and there's a pig. You know, this was a whole new language for us. And so we came into it really with the bare bones. But what we did come into it with was an understanding of nature based on our previous jobs, which were very, very practical orientated. And the need to make a living, because you don't turn your life upside down to just carry on as normal. You know, if you're going to do this, which is what we felt, we thought, right, we've got to go for this. And I don't want a halfway house. You know, I don't want to work and farm at the same time. That was just our passion. We wanted to be here full time. So that motivated us to become business savvy. So, you know, I'm a full believer that if you don't spend much money, you know, you have to make an awful lot less because your overheads are, you know, minimal. So it was all about what's going on in nature. You know, how can we work in harmony with all these amazing natural systems and use our animals to work with those natural systems and produce this amazing product at the end with spending the least amount of money that we can. And we didn't carry, I guess, a whole load of, you've got to plow, you've got to fertilize, you've got to lime, you know, you've got to sell at the mart, we just didn't come with that. And, you know, a few years into being here, there was the guy who's head of the NFU in Scotland, a guy called Andrew McCormick, he said about us, he said, we think so far out of the box that we didn't even know there was a box. And we really didn't know there was a box, but we were definitely not in it.
Well, I'll hand you back to the other two who are not constrained by boxes.
Okay.
Oh, we are at the moment.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's more of a rectangle, but
Okay.
moving on.
Kind of circular.
So in terms of, the question we asked quite a few people is, what does regenerative mean to you? So you've talked a bit about, June, it was about protecting land. It's about your sort of holistic values, but so if you try and describe it, do you mean on your various tours, how do you introduce the idea of regenerative, or do you just use other words?
I suppose there's two things that kind of come to mind. One is, to me, and I think to what we do here and what we try and explain to people, is that regenerative is beyond sustainable. So we talk a lot about sustainability, and really I think we would say it's just not good enough. We can't sustain what we have. You know, we kind of have a bit of a problem. So if we sustain that level, we're really not improving things. So regenerative is taking it above sustainability. So it's always looking at every single element that you're doing is wanting to have a positive, regenerative, almost healing effect. And that is not just the soil. In farming, we talk a lot about obviously soil and soil health, and that's, fundamental to what we do. It's the absolute building blocks of all of our businesses. But equally, we talk a lot about the business side of things. We talk a lot about having a business that's always evolving, that's always kind of developing and growing. And I don't mean growing in a kind of a capitalist sense. I just mean evolving. And we also talk about, regenerative, and a huge part of it is socially, culturally. So regenerating ourselves, looking, what do our bodies need, in terms of our physical health and our mental well-being, where are we at in our community, how can we help to reconnect and regenerate people's relationship with the land? So all of that really comes into it. And then I think another way to describe, what regenerative means to us is it's not degenerative. So it's not doing harm. It's always trying to kind of shift it to the positive and renewing that kind of, impact that we have in a positive way.
So Lynn, when you have people come and visit the farm, I'm guessing
Yes.
some are farmers, but probably the majority aren't from farming. Are there some things that stand out in what they ask you, or what their questions are, or how do they, are they completely, well, they're probably pretty flabbergasted by what you're doing now, I would imagine.
So honestly, I feel that people come here, and because we're very conscious to try and keep our message very positive, it's all about kind of positivity and enabling. It's not about that's rubbish, he's rubbish, this is rubbish. We try not to go down that route, even though, behind closed doors, a few glasses of wine, we're there. But, it's cathartic. But, we try and have a really kind of positive engagement with people, because I'm a firm believer that if you want to create change, you create something that people want. And if you can create something that people want, then they will strive for that. So we very much kind of get that across in our tours. And I feel that people leave here just feeling really great about things, because what I hope we're doing is showing what we believe is a viable model for farming. I'm not saying all of farming. I'm just saying it's a viable model, which it's never going to be replicated exactly, but elements of it can be taken and applied to other farm businesses. So I feel that people come away really positive. People ask a lot about, welfare side of things, and that's something that we talk a lot about. People are very interested in this concept that we talk about, that the animals are part of our team. So we talk about how, we use our cattle through planned grazing to, build soil, and we're scattering all that kind of manure and pee all around, or, how in the winter time we use things like bale grazing and, feeding hay to, rot down into the soil and feed the soil. So we kind of incorporate those kinds of things into it. Or, we'll talk about our pigs, and then I come up with these stupid terms like snuffle army, and then I think I'm really funny, and it's actually really embarrassing. But, it's kind of just having a bit of a laugh with people. And we talk about, the pigs rooting through the woodland, and they're breaking up little tufts of soil, and you can get like tree seedlings can fall. And so people are really intrigued about the kind of the team element of things. And then I think the other thing that people ask a lot about is the death side. So because we're so honest about how we kind of take our animals through the whole process, and we talk about our animals with real genuine care and compassion, and people go, how do you do it? How do you do it? And again, we just try to answer it honestly, that we believe, and again, this is our personal belief, that we've raised the animals, so therefore it's our responsibility to take them to the abattoir, and we walk them in as far as we can, and we share one bad day with them. And that's a phrase that we use a lot. So the whole kind of precede to that is, those animals are just, they are doing what Joel Salatin says, they are being the animals of the animal. And it's our responsibility to ensure that they are having that. And then we have that bad day with them. And then we bring them back here, and we butcher them, and we make them into the most awesome produce that we can. And I think that kind of circular aspect and the honesty side makes people go, okay, yeah, I get that.
So talking about all the positives, what I'm going to go negative now. So what
Don't be degenerative. Don't be degenerative.
No, I'm not. But pretend we've had some glasses of wine, and all the truth is coming out. And there's obviously been struggles along the way. Or what things have you found the trickiest? Has there been particular problems with certain things that you thought, oh my God, this is how? Can you just speak about some of those, the grim stuff, Lynn? Can't all be positive.
Absolutely. Because let's face it, it does happen, and we're all humans. So initially for us, it was money, big time. So we bought Lynbreck. So we were very fortunate to have, been able to gather together the money to buy our bit of land. But it came at a cost in that we had a deficit of about £20,000. So we had to take out a loan of £20,000 to basically bridge the gap. And I mean, we literally had nothing. We emptied, we did all the stuff that they say never do. We emptied pension pots, we did everything because we so wanted this. And so early on, that was a massive stress. And that really stayed with us, I would say, for at least probably the first 3 years. And so we had to work off the croft while we were building the business up. So I worked 4 days a week. Sandra picked up, work locally. I mean, and we did anything. Sandra was strimming the banks of the River Spey at 5 a.m. before the fishermen came, and we just literally did anything because we just had to get money in, and it was this constant kind of like dark cloud. So we kind of built that up to a point where Sandra was full-time and I managed to reduce my days to 2 days a week, but it was my biggest struggle at the time because I just didn't want to be there and I had no motivation. And I wanted to be here. So that always kind of flared itself up. I'd come in after a day at work and nothing in particular had happened, but I'd have like 3 whiskeys and Sandra would come in and go, what happened? And I'd just say, oh, I was on the computer all day or something, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So the financial stress was very, very, very real, at least for the first 3 years. I'd say other stresses are, heck, in farming, this is notorious, is work-life balance. So the hours, more so at the start that we used to work, was just ridiculous. So it was obviously trying to earn money off the croft. But then when we were here, it was just full pelt all the time. There was no let up ever. And, holidays gone, leaving the croft gone, nice romantic weekend away gone, and we had to really work through all of that. And I think, the question you asked earlier, Nick, about the holistic context is that it kind of allowed us to wheedle all that out. So all those little issues that were kind of bubbling under the surface that we were struggling with individually, suddenly they became a collective and we were able to work through those. So, it's like, why do we never leave the croft? Well, we never leave the croft because actually we quite like it here, and we're kind of new to this, and we're learning, we're gaining confidence, and we don't really trust anybody to kind of look after it for us. And all these really honest conversations that we had, I think helped us get to a point where we're at today, which is we still don't leave the croft, but I think can see a point in the future when we probably are going to be able to, because I guess, I don't have kids, but I guess it's like having kids, you learn a lot early on, and, you worry about it. It's your baby, it's your, you've made this amazing thing. And what if you go away for a week and somebody breaks all the eggs? Nobody in Egg Club gets any eggs. They go and, defrost one of your freezers, or, the Highlanders break out, or, it's kind of saying to ourselves, you know what? It's okay that we don't feel this confident. We'll get there. So in the meantime, let's just go down to the local cafe every now and again, have a nice bit of tea and cake. Just that kind of thing. It's working through it. So yeah, so money and work-life balance. You know, who in life doesn't face those stresses?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I've been having conversations recently with a group of farmers about work-life balance, and I think, and we certainly have never got anywhere near solving it, but it's also about people's expectation of, I mean, it's the same for everybody, whether you've got a farm or anything, isn't it? The expectation of what your life should be like and what your life actually is can sometimes drive disappointment. So it is about realizing and sort of accepting where you are. But does acceptance mean you don't challenge it? I suppose I don't mean it in that way, but it's this constant striving for the grass is always greener, and that in itself is a frustration.
I think it's a massive thing, and I think whenever you do like what we did, which was, you know, dreamt for years, you know, spent years dreaming about this wonderful life that we'd have, and then you come here and then you go, oh, this is really hard. This is really hard. And I'd left everything that was actually really comfortable, like, you know, a monthly salary and, you know, mains water and, you know, access to the local sewage system rather than the septic tank. You know,
who knew that would be on your list of things?
Well, you know, why not just throw? But it's funny, you know, you never really expect that kind of thing, and so all of these things were things that early on, you know, we were really faced with, and you know, we get a lot of people say to me, "Oh God, you must have a hard life. It must be hard, though, isn't it hard?" And yes, it is hard. And some days it's, you know, I think the one word that I would use to describe farming is relentless. It is just relentless. You know, just when things are going good, something happens. And it can be every day, you know, just there's something that just that curveball is constant. And that is why I have huge respect for farmers as being some of the most resilient people I have ever met in my entire life, because they are just constantly getting it. And I think you just don't appreciate that. I mean, people come here and they go, oh, it's so pretty, it's so beautiful, and you've got an amazing view, and oh, I love your kitchen garden and all this kind of stuff. And that is all great, and that is all what we love. But you do have days when you just think, this is rubbish, you know, this is really hard, and I just want it to stop, and I want to go and, you know, live in the town, buy a nice little, you know, terraced house, and, you know, that'd be nice.
Walk the dog.
We get people who come and visit, because I live on the farm and quite close to my sisters, and then people come and go, it's like you live in a Sunday supplement. It's like, yeah, you're not here on the days where the rain is that and you're up to your knees in mud. But yes, we do live in a Sunday supplement. Some days. So yeah, so it is. Yeah. But I think it's people's perception, isn't it, and reality, which is back to the point of we always think our reality is far worse than anybody else's, to a degree.
It is, and I think as well, it's going back to what we were talking about before about, you know, your expectations, and we had to really review our expectations and what it was we wanted from our lives here. So, you know, we run a farm business. That is what we do. That is how we make our money. So we are here, you know, we're both now here full time. So our 150-acre croft, which we were told, oh, you'll never make any money there. You'll have to work off farm. Well, you know, 4.5 years in, we are both here full time. And that, the reason I think we got there is through kind of sticking to what it is that we believe, but it was actually redressing our priorities in life. So, you know, we talk a lot about money in the world. We talk a lot about wealth. And we started to kind of really discuss what it was that we felt was what was wealth to us. What did that actually mean? And, you know, when we sat down and talked about it, it was, well, physical and mental well-being. That's absolutely fundamental. I want to be physically fit, and I want to be, you know, mentally, I want to be happy. Okay, let's just say it how it is. I want to be happy. I want to love my life. And so we do that by, you know, living how we do, you know, growing our own food, having a kitchen garden. You know, we grow 70% of our own veg. We eat all of our own meat. We harvest all of our own water. We harvest all of our own, you know, firewood. So all of that feeds into our physical and mental health. So that's number one wealth to us. The second is the health of our land. That's absolutely key. So you know, we want our soils full of worms. You know, we want worms everywhere. You know, we want really healthy, functioning soils. and the, you know, the biodiversity above that will be absolutely hotching. The third thing is the health of our animals. That's wealth to us. It's having healthy animals that have everything that they need, and you know, nothing is compromised. To us, you know, we can sleep at night. You know, we take such joy in seeing our animals just doing their thing. You know, a Highlander chewing on some hay, or, you know, a pig with its nose in a, you know, bit of soil or whatever. You know, take such, you know, pride in that. So that's wealth. And then the last to us is money. So, you know, making the business side of things pay. And I think really kind of honestly looking at that and kind of rejigging what it was we felt was important to us just made everything kind of fall into place a lot more, and made us think, do you know what, this whole kind of like skipping around in a Sunday supplement, if our sort of wealth tier is where it is, then hell yeah, let's do it.
And it's quite interesting, because I suppose I was just about to, it's about Nick, in terms of, because you're building a similar model, aren't you, in terms of stacking your enterprises and
yeah, I suppose, yeah, because we've gone from being in 2013 at least quite conventional beef and sheep, mainly sheep at that point, and then you kind of sit back and you look at the fact that you spend hours and hours in the sheep pens. You kind of scratching a living really, but you're really busy.
Yeah.
And it's that, and so now we've got less cattle, well, less sheep anyway, a lot less sheep, more cattle, but then we've got meat chickens, the eggs now finally, pigs, and that stacking effect, and the fact that we've got more species we've got, the better everything does. So yeah, the Eggmobile was finally finished 2 weeks ago, which Renault has taken about 6 months to build, and now it's nearly it's winter and they need to come in, and there's bird flu around, which is another added stress. So
and in terms of, because you have done some tours, haven't you, and also thinking of holiday cottages, so it is,
we've done one tour. I copied you, Lynn. We did one tour, and we didn't charge them because I didn't have the balls at that point to do it, but I think I will next time. So we've had lots of groups around, like farming groups, but these were like normal people coming around to see us. And Renault was like, oh, I don't know if I can be arsed with this. But actually, when we did it, he's like you, Lynn. He's very good at just he gives it all, his heart on his sleeve, and it just really, people loved it. So I can really see that can become more of a thing, and I think lots of people could do that. But can I just ask you a few sad questions about Eggmobiles, just because we're new? Yes. So we have got at the minute 80 hens in our mobile, but we could probably have, it's a big caravan chassis, so we could probably have maybe 200 in there. So we've reared these from baby chicks, and we reared them in our chicken tractors, Joel Salatin chicken tractors. So they were, and this is probably a big mistake we've made, we reared them on the ground, so they didn't roost. Oh, okay. So now, bedtime, half of them roost, and then Renault has to go down and like put each one on the thing, and it's so it's like, he says, I think we've made a cock up here. So I'm thinking, at the minute, he's thinking that every day for the length of these chickens' lives, he's going to have to put them to bed. But I mean, they're quite easy, because you just pick it up and just plonk it on, and they're just hypnotized. Obviously, if there's 200 in there,
by Renault.
Different.
Yeah. So tell me the story of your chicks. Did you get them as baby ones, or chicks, or point of lay?
So we buy them in at point of lay. So we get them in at 16 weeks old. So we buy them from a guy, you'll never believe this, but he's called Donald McDonald, and he's from the Isle of Skye, and he is a phenomenal hen breeder. So he breeds all sorts of different types of hens. So in our Eggmobile, and then we have a Eggmobile and we have a static hen house. So we have a whole mixture of hens. So we have, you know, your kind of standard layers that lay the sort of the brown eggs. So the eyes are browns. We have black rocks, which are kind of a Scottish variety. But then we also get a few kind of quirky breeds in. So we have, you know, green egg layers, we have blue egg layers, we have some white leghorns that have the white eggs. And that's really because there's a few reasons really. It's for the eggs themselves. So people, it sets us apart. It's something different when you get, you know, these different colored eggs. And it's a really nice thing for people to see when they come to the farm. They see all these different types of hens running around, and then that leads to all sorts of different conversations and stuff. So the majority we buy in at point of lay. We rotate our hens every 2 years. So we keep them for 2 years at a time. We find that we still get good eggs, you know, within that amount of time. And then we rehome. So we rehome locally. So we'll put out a, you know, whatever on, you know, Facebook or whatever, and say we're rehoming hens, and we find that generally kind of works. We do raise some chicks ourselves, so we'll you know, have a clutch of 12 or 24 eggs that will hatch out every year. We find that those hens are completely wild, so total opposite to yours, in that they, you know, within like days they're roosting in trees. You know, we've spent hours trying to get hens down rather than putting them back up again. They generally seem to kind of calm down after a while, but that's a sort of a good mix for us. We do have a cockerel who runs with one set of hens, and that's really just so that we can hatch some of the eggs from him.
And another sad question, chicken question: what do you feed them? And we're at the minute trying to buy chicken feed that is GM soya free.
Yeah,
a bit like looking for hen's teeth.
Please.
And how orange yellow are your yolks? And is that, do you get quite obsessed with that? Sorry, are you into that? Because yeah,
I feel like going and getting one for you now.
Oh, well, maybe
cracking that orange.
Maybe after the call, maybe.
Okay, so feed. So whenever one of the things that we talk about on our tours is, I say we try to keep it positive, but we do talk about the things that we're not so happy with in our business. And one of the things is the fact that we buy in, you know, hen feed and we buy in pig feed. So we've made a commitment to buy in organic. So that's so all of our hens and our pigs are on organic feed. So we get it from High Peak. High Peak are GM free, but they're not soya free. And we're kind of constantly, like you, constantly looking for ways to kind of get away from that, to improve on that. And it's the same with the pig feed as well. You know, we're looking at possibly transitioning the pigs to, you know, to part to silage or something like that. But it's a definite, it's a definite chink in the armor there.
Yeah.
But going to the yolks, girl. I mean, you know, and the thing is our customers notice as well. So they notice in the winter when they're not as orange because they're not grazing as much in some areas, you know, because we haven't got the grass. And then come the spring, I mean, they are just like beacons. And, you know, people will say, you know, your eggs are so creamy, or, you know, they'll use all these kind of words that you just never really associate with eggs. And it's just, I think when people have properly, you know, grass raised, free range hens, it's just mind blowing.
See, Liz, I'm not that sad. It is a thing.
I know, and someone's written in the comment that it's Dayglow. Alistair said Dayglow orange yellow is where it's at.
Alistair, boy.
But the slight side story. So we have a few hens on the farm just for for the family to eat. And my sister did have to get rid of a dead pigeon from the chicken that was pecking it, and it was absolutely outraged that the dead pigeon had been removed from it. So you do sometimes think they eat more than just grass, given the chance.
We always say they're just little dinosaurs. You know, we've seen them running around with voles and mice, and I mean that's just like, you know, that's just kind of Christmas dinner right there for a hen. They just absolutely love all of that kind of thing. So yeah, no, they're I mean, the insects and the grubs, you know, with our Eggmobile, you know, it's going through where the cows have been, and you know, all those grubs that they're getting out, worms. You know, whenever we've got bit where we call the taddy patch, you know, where we grow our potatoes, and it's just this kind of big long strip. And when we're in working there, you know, the hens are just like woof, and any time the soil is turned over, it's just they're sucking up worms like it's spaghetti, and it's just unbelievable. We don't use that in our marketing, but
Jan reports they do love mice, so that's nice. But I think, and I suppose some of it is, sorry, Joseph, you're here to ask some questions.
No, it's fine. I'll just
hang out.
I'll hang out. Yeah. There was just a few. Well, in terms of my backyard of a whole 3 chickens, yes, Rena will keep having to put them up because one refuses, and I've seen mine eating a hatchling. I've never seen 3 chickens chase each other around the garden when they're trying to get it off each other. But you went back just going back a few questions. One, well, it's a quick one, hopefully. Do your pigs destroy the land much? And I suppose, how do you repair after the pigs have been through?
I think that's a really good question, and it's one that you have to be very careful of. So we could carry loads of pigs. We have got loads of space to put pigs out, you know, because we're giving them supplementary feed. So it's not like we're reliant on certain fields, you know, to just have feed for pigs. You know, they're given that feed as well. But we don't, because we know the impact that they can have if they're in an area for particularly long, which is of a size whereby within a certain period that they're going to be in that, they'll just annihilate. And we've had pigs do that before. You know, we've made that mistake where we thought, oh, they'll be fine there. And then, you know, you come through and it's an utter quagmire and you're absolutely horrified because all of that stuff that you've read, which says no bare soil, you're just seeing bare soil. So really we've learned to really monitor the work that our pigs are doing. So first of all, wherever we're going to put pigs, we're saying, well, what do we want them to do? How long ideally would we like them in here for? And then how long can we give this land rest? And I think, you know, out of all of those 3 questions, the key one at the end of the day is always rest. So we carry the number of pigs that we feel is appropriate, that we can give the areas that they've been in long periods of rest. And when I say long periods of rest, I'm meaning years, so that we have, you know, because pigs can be invasive, so that we're allowing that land to fully rest and recover, and hopefully come back more diverse than what it was when the pigs were in there before, because that essentially is the whole point. So for example, our pigs are in woodlands, because our woodlands are very, you know, it's the same species of tree, same age, very low diversity on the ground flora. We run the pigs through there, they break up the ground, they provide little holes for, you know, for tree seedlings to set, or, you know, any seeds in the relic seed bank to grow. And we give it the time to do that. So putting pigs in again a year later, that's no good. So what you have to do really is kind of try it, watch what it is that you're doing, and then set your different parameters from that. So if I give an example now, we have one set of pigs who are in our woodland, and they have about just over an acre, and there's 3 of them. They've been in there for 2 months. They've done a bit of rootling and tootling, but, you know, by no means are they finished in there. There's a lot of work for them still to do. Contrary to that, we have 5 more pigs who have got 38 acres. So we have this large area, we call it the flats. It's a sort of boggy, kind of heathery, the odd kind of scrubby bit around. And we've put pigs out there, and so they have huge area to work. And again, we're factoring in all this kind of, you know, we're just observing what they're doing and always having a backup plan. If they do hit an area too hard, we've got to move them.
And just then continuing on from the conversation around chickens and chicken feed and soya, etc. There was, I think it's a Richard Perkins, or from Rich Thomas, but he states that Richard Perkins says that chickens are not truly regenerative. So he's looking towards rabbits, basically something that does not require cereals. Have you considered this, or is it even realistic?
Well, we farm rabbits without trying here. We have loads of rabbits. We eat a lot of rabbit. Rabbit is probably one of the main foods that we eat, because we do kill the rabbits here on the croft, and then we make a nice stew. Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, there's so many advantages for us to having the hens in terms of our business. So, you know, the eggs are, you know, a really profitable enterprise. We're seeing the benefits that the hens are doing on the ground. You know, we have areas where, you know, we've worked through hens where it's been really kind of mossy and there's very little diversity. We put the hens in, they scratch like billy-o, they have a great time, and they're adding all their own poo and, you know, fertilizer to the soil, and then we're moving them on, resting that ground, and we're noticing the impact already that that's having. With more diversity coming in, you know, you've got your little clovers coming in, nitrogen fixing, we've got more diversity coming in. So if we just look at it from our farm business, they're really, really, really good. But I totally accept that, you know, the feed, you know, that kind of element, the feed element is the big Achilles heel of it, and how we can kind of progress that in the future, we have to be open-minded about.
There is, I think there is a lot of work being done in the industry in terms of soya sourcing, sustainable sourcing of soya, and then trying to get it from areas that isn't from rainforest areas. So I suppose there is, industry is trying to address that as well. So it is, I suppose, hopefully more solutions to come. Just two more questions. Oh, sorry, Liz.
No, but I think there's also a bit we have to be realistic about. I mean, there are areas of the country that are most profitable, and with this, I'll be shouted down shortly, but as an arable farmer in training, in terms of there are areas where sustainable crop rotations are very much justified in terms of, and the feed, generally wheat that's going into chicken feed do you mean it isn't ever going to be necessarily good enough to go into human food? So why do you mean, so I think it is a noble endeavor, but I think there is a risk of us disappear, like we just get too bogged down in the regenerative approach rather than thinking of it as a sustainable system, and actually how can we get that livestock crop balance right, rather than going, we're not going to grow any cereals because we can't feed any to a chicken. I think it's too extreme in its view.
Fair enough. Don't think I said that, but let's go on.
No, but in terms of, it's about challenging back, isn't it? We just keep nodding and go, everyone keeps telling us to do this, and at some point we've got to go, actually, where is the line in the sand? And is that I support mixed farming practices, where excess cereals are there and could be fed to livestock.
But I think it's like everything else, though. It's all about balance, and especially like soya. There is sustainable soya production, I'm sure, in parts of the world. It's all about balance.
Yeah. Essex.
Essex.
There's some soya grown in Essex.
I've only seen people with weird tans in Essex. Sorry, that's all I see on TV. It's TV at Lycia, apparently. We can get onto this farming life near towards the end. Just on to just the last two questions. How does the basic Regen holistic concept help with managing your work-life balance? Do you think that's kind of helped how you look at it?
So basically, by writing your holistic context, so your holistic context is in effect a side of A4. That's all it is, and it basically it's what you want out of life. It's what you're trying to achieve, and so by making that really, really clear, and I really can't emphasize enough how important it is to write it down. I never believed that. I always thought, but I know. But when Sandra and I actually sat and physically wrote it down, it was a completely different experience. The key was unlocked. And it just meant that we were completely clear about what it was that we were doing. So if we were having a rubbish day, or if we worked an 80 or 100-hour week and we were knackered and we were stressed, we were immediately able to identify what's going on here and why are we doing that. So it just basically helped us to keep ourselves on the right track, whereby our life here was all about living on the land, reconnecting with nature, growing our own food. And if we and growing food for our community, and if we veered away from that, it was pretty easy to identify because we had it specified in our holistic context, and it could pull us back in again.
So this is the last question for now, and I think hopefully I can set up the next area for Liz and Nicola. So you mentioned kind of scale and size, and you know how what you carry on the farm to what you feel can you can carry appropriately. So would you or do you cooperate with other crofts to increase the output size of various meal sales models?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say not an awful lot at the minute, but I do believe it is the way forward. So, and the reason why not an awful lot at the minute is because, you know, we've just been setting up our own business. We've been figuring out who we are, what it is that we're trying to do, you know, where's our customer base, you know, all that kind of thing. But moving forward, we would like to very much work more with other small producers who, you know, farm in a similar way that we do. And I think what we're trying to do at the minute is figure out what that model is going to look like. So there's lots of examples of cooperatives starting and failing for you know, generally because of social disagreements and whatever. And, you know, we don't want to go down a route whereby, you know, we start kind of going into agreements with other people and then it kind of falls flat. So we're really sort of gently kind of finding our way through. And so we've done that in a few ways. So first of all is, you know, we have this amazing resource of the micro butchery. So what we started to do is offer our services to other small scale producers to, you know, to do their butchery for them, you know, to make some nice added value produce, to really get them, you know, involved in that element of it, rather than just kind of contracting a butcher out and, you know, at the end of the day you get a big lump of meat and that's what you've got to work with. So thinking, okay, we can use that as a resource to work with other people. And it's also seeing who's around us that does similar work to us, that we can offer their produce to our markets. So, you know, volume, regularity of supply we can kind of get a little bit, but volume of supply is what we don't have enough of. So we have you know, we have a friend who's about an hour away, and she's you know, she does really great work with sheep farming, so regenerative sheep farming. So we're, you know, what we're doing is we're going to buy, you know, a whole lot of carcasses from her, and we're going to put it through our meat club, and we're going to, you know, tell her story through our meat club, and, you know, we're able to, you know, give her a little bit more for the value of her sheep because we're making it into added value produce. So we hope that we're kind of passing that benefit on to her, and she's got a guaranteed outlet for, you know, at least you know, 10 carcasses. So it's kind of little things like that that we're trying at the minute, and we really want to build on, because I think one thing that we avoid at any cost is competition. We just are not interested in it. We fully believe in collaboration, in working together, in helping one another, and that's definitely the way forward.
Brilliant, thank you. I'll hand you back.
So I suppose the question, it links a bit back to what we were talking about before. So I'm within the family just starting a meat box business. So we're sort of 3 bullocks in and 20 lambs in, something like that. So, and what's interesting about it is that you've been eating the product for so long, or you've been exposed to it, then people just then, not randoms, but people, you know, you've sold to come back with this most amazing feedback and you don't quite believe it. So in terms of, and it's this idea of that you, because you're so used to it and you're used to living on the land and all of that. So it's jumping back a bit, but when did your tours start in relation to you selling things? Was it that people asked for those tours, or did you running them alongside the selling things to sort of promote the produce?
So we sold our first produce. If I'm talking meat sales, our first meat sales were in January 2018. That was the first time we sold, and that was pork. We started our tours. We started our tours in 2019. So it was about 18 months afterwards. So the tours were not a precursor to the meat the meat came first. So that kind of business side came first. And how we sort of did it, I'm just trying to remember how we built it up locally. I mean, it was mostly word of mouth. It was mostly kind of getting the word out there, and social media, even though we were only focusing on local sales. And as I say, like, about 95% of our produce is still just local sales. We just kind of got the word out there. And I very much relate, Liz, to that thing that you said about, you eat the meat, you think it tastes great, but then when people taste it as well, and then they go, oh my God, that was amazing, you go, oh no, oh really, and you really don't want to be sowing any seeds of doubt. You want to be going, yeah, my meat is amazing. But as well, we have that kind of added on because we do the pork butchery, and then we do all this kind of crazy stuff with it, like make cheese sausages, or, smoked bacon, or, do all this kind of other stuff with it. And I think it's really about having confidence in the product. If you're creating it in a way that's good for the animal and good for nature, it can only be good, I think.
And I suppose there's also been a lot of, I include myself in this, which is we've started it more because of the COVID situation and local and people demanding meat. So has COVID shifted your ideas? I'm guessing not necessarily, because it's still driven by that sort of your holistic vision.
Yeah. So the COVID thing for us.
The pandemic, I've just called the COVID thing. I apologize.
Somebody had to mention it. No, the COVID thing for us, in terms of products and sales, I would say only enhanced the demand for what we had. So we were kind of getting to a point anywhere where we were kind of starting to sell out pretty regularly, and we like that model. If we had a meat box release, we just wanted it gone. And it was I think it was a couple of weeks after the pandemic, we did a release of pork, and it sold out within half an hour, and that was just to a local market. And I think that even kind of made us go, okay, that's quite mad. That's really, really quick. So I think that's kind of stayed. But I feel as well that I just get a feeling there's farmers in the area are starting to see this. I feel as though people are kind of starting to go, actually, maybe there's something in this. And I think that's brilliant, because the demand is so hugely there. What did hit us with COVID was the outreach side of things. So we had tours lined up for the year. We had 2 fully booked courses, which was going to be a huge revenue income for us. Shut down, stopped, gone. Now we were able to kind of get around that, and but jeepers, that was a huge door closed in your face. But it was where we felt so grateful for the diversified element of our business, because even with all of that gone, we could still keep the business running. And if all the meat sales had gone but the outreach had stayed, that one would have supported the other. So it really is that benefit, that huge benefit of diversification is so vast.
Yeah, no, I think it's just amazing, Lynn, what you've both done. It's where do you get your inspiration from? And is there particular people you kind of channel into, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, or you just think we're following our own thing?
Yeah, I think mostly we follow our own thing. So I'm really not very good on, I'm not a podcaster, as in like I don't listen to them. I don't really, I don't really do kind of conferences or like this year I looked at things like the Northern Real Farming Conference, and I looked like Bio Farm, and I thought, oh my god, this looked really good. Didn't go to any of them, just was kind of so kind of focused on doing things here. So I'm really not very good at kind of being part of that. I just kind of like to get on with things. So Sandra, on the other hand, she would watch a lot of Richard Perkins videos. I would say he's kind of influences quite a lot. And I am a big fan of the work of Joel Salatin. You know, it's those people that have really kind of influenced us, and because they have such a passion for what they do, but they make it pay. You know, that's what they do. That's their jobs. That's their full-time work. And I think that was a massive thing that we related to. You know, whenever we were kind of setting up, and it just, everything that they said just really kind of rang true. But I think really, again, pulling it back to the holistic context, because we feel so confident about what it is that we want to do, and that's where it makes it very personal. You know, there's no Lynbreck, there's no other Lynbreck apart from this Lynbreck. There's no other, you know, business that works in this way, because there's not, because we're completely unique, just like every farm business is. And I think it's really embracing that and taking a lot of positivity and strength from it, and pride, which is, you know, something as kind of, you know, British people, we're not very good at doing. We're not very good at kind of going, hey, look at me, aren't I great? And it's not about, you know, wanting the attention. It's about just celebration, a celebration of something that's really good and really positive. And I think that's something that we really consciously try and do. And just going back to another point that I think it was Nick that you made about the tours side of thing and the charging element. You know, we really struggled with that for a long time. Again, because, you know, as I was saying, we didn't want it to be exclusive, and it just felt a bit weird. It felt a bit weird, you know, saying to people, right, well, you know, you've got to pay me 15 quid or I'm not showing you nothing, you know. And it was actually kind of trying to flip it on its head and say to people, we want you to value this experience, and we want you to value what it is that we're going to give you for the next 3 hours. And we found that actually, you know, there was no problem with saying to people honestly up front, you know, the tour is £15 or the tour is £36, or, but look, if you don't have any money and you can't go on any of those, you know, we've got all these vlogs, we've got social media. So it was just about saying, you know what, it's okay. I don't turn up to my day job every day going, no, I'll do it for free. And so it's about sort of trying to find that balance that you're happy with.
Can we just deviate slightly? Can you just talk about your honeybees quickly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I think we should have them as part of our farms, but obviously don't know much about chickens, don't know anything about honeybees.
Yeah, bees. Oh wow, bees. If there's ever that has been our biggest learning curve, has been bees. You know, everything's been a learning curve, but the biggest has been the bees. So we now have 9 hives of honeybees, and we started off just with 1 hive, and we've kind of built up. And the reason for getting the honeybees was, you know, primarily initially we were thinking, you know, pollinators, and you know, kind of fell into that sort of way of looking at it, and then they kind of supply us with with honey as well. So we always plan to kind of have more bees and kind of grow the number of bees and have lots and lots of bees, but we're not going to do that anymore, because it's like having the right number of animals for the land. We need the right number of bees for the land. And you know, there's a lot of research coming out nowadays about, you know, having honeybees that kind of saturate environments and kind of push the natural invertebrates out of the way of their kind of source of food. So it's kind of trying to understand that balance as well. But we do 2 harvests of honey a year. We get our wildflower and tree blossom honey. We harvest that around about July, and then we get our heather honey, which we harvest at sort of early September. And the wildflower honey is, I think it's really pretty unique in Scotland. We don't have a lot of places that do wild, like really wild wildflower honey, and it's just nuts. The flavor that comes out of that is just, it's kind of zingy but sweet but floral. It's just amazing. And then the heather honey, so if you've ever smelled heather, you know, if you ever kind of stuck your nose in a big bunch of heather and just kind of inhaled that kind of purple bloom, it just literally fills your nostrils with this just intense floral scent. And that's basically what you eat. So the heather honey is just, you know, it just puts your sensations into overdrive. And there's now, again, more research coming out that, you know, heather honey is having similar properties to Manuka honey. And, you know, Manuka honey is selling for huge, you know, huge money.
Loads of money.
Huge money. Yeah. Well, listen, you heard it here first. Heather honey is the new Manuka. You probably didn't. You probably read it before. But and again, it's kind of all those things that we try and kind of tell to local people. And honey's a great thing that we can sell. So we sell it locally, but it's also a great thing that we can sell on tours. And we can sell when people come to the croft, because it pretty much doesn't really have a sell, it doesn't really have a sell by date. We put one on it, but it's for a few years in advance. So it's a really nice thing for people to be able to buy and take away with them. And it's also something sometimes that we'll use as a taste tester. So, to try and build that relationship with people with the land, we'll say, hey, eat a bit of the land, eat some of the honey. Don't eat the bees, just the honey.
Just the honey.
But I know I'm just conscious of the time, but it's been brilliant. Thank you very much. I've learned, it's my favourite phrase of the evening, obviously, is chickens are like little dinosaurs. And also, I didn't really realise that bees are evil. Well, they're not evil, they just outcompete other things. Again, interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, but more importantly, the key thing I've taken from it is the honesty. I like, because it came out quite a few times, which is you've got to be honest with yourself and keep coming back to that in terms of why am I getting up every morning. And I think the pride thing's an interesting one, because it is, and recognizing that it's not a natural British pastime to be proud of what we do, and it's embracing that, isn't it? It's like taking a compliment or anything. We just have to learn to accept them and say thank you with grace. And part of I think the challenge sometimes for farmers is that we don't, similar to what I've just said, we don't recognize what we're doing is any different. And that it's learning to recognize that we are doing some special things. Anyway, they're my key points. Sorry, I rambled a bit.
Well, my key points are farm tours. I think lots of people could do them. I think lots of people should charge for them. We should kind of value it, and I think people probably quite like to pay. I don't think that's they probably expect to pay, and then they think, oh, got away with that one. But yeah, so I think farm tours, and I again talking about egg yolks, I think the eggs from Eggmobiles or eggs from chickens outside are different, and I think there's a lot of that point of difference is really important. Yeah, so it's this quality of product, I suppose. But thank you very much. Joseph, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. Any more questions?
We just had one left, and I think this is probably going back to the point of Liz and mixed farming. If I'm going to throw that, Liz, do you think it's possible to grow more of, or if not all, feed for hens? And I suppose Emily was thinking something of like we have standing seed species that could be based on maybe kind of different swords.
I don't know whether it's my Wi-Fi going again, but
No, it's his.
Okay. I think it's also referring to sort of pasture cropping. So is there something we can grow in to help to balance out that diet? But and simple answers, I don't know enough about chicken nutrition, but I'm guessing that it's the challenge with them and also that how do you keep it so it's always in front of them? So it's like mob grazing for chickens, and I don't know enough about it, but I'm guess. And why do we like that concentrate? Sort of like any system, we like something that's in grain or concentrate because it's just a really effective way of getting that nutrition in and gets them growing well. So I'm sure there is, but I don't know what it is.
The last point was more of an observation, just meant about charging for time or your own time, Lynn. Because it's funny, earlier on you mentioned how when you're doing costs, you don't know, sometimes you put your own time in or not, but then when you're doing the public tours, it's about valuing that. So I think that's an interesting thing with farmers. So you mightn't be from a farming background, but you've definitely picked up that kind of trait of we don't always value our own time as an industry. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why sometimes we don't like to charge people for it. I think that's
you can also see that as marketing. So that's investment in a marketing approach for your business.
Yes.
Anyway, we digress.
Thank you very much. I'll let you go.
Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry about my early technical issues. Slight moment of panic, but we seem to be okay. But no, brilliant. Thank you very much. And Nick, I don't know whether you want to say anything else.
Thanks, Lynn. That was amazing. And we're going to have a Christmas special, aren't we, Liz?
Yeah.
Have we said who's doing it? I can't remember.
We haven't. Michael Blanche. We're doing a Christmas special with Michael Blanche, which is basically Christmas drinks. So we haven't really thought any further than that. But yeah, it's likely to be the week of the sort of Monday, Tuesday of Christmas week. So it's probably the Monday, Tuesday. We're just confirming the date. So, but I think part of that is, sort of talking a bit more in terms of his thoughts on rotational grazing versus sort of regenerative type grazing system. So, but it's basically the world according to Michael Blanche, which is frightening, I'm sure.
But always very entertaining.
Yep. And just on the side point of the chicken, the question I didn't answer very well. Someone has mentioned that there is quite a lot of options in terms of forage crops for poultry. Google it. And the Organic Research Centre's done a lot, and chicory is a really good crop for chickens.
But I think the more people do this kind of stuff, the more it'll become an easier problem to solve. Because if you just phone up a feed mill now, they just think you're a bit weird, don't they, Lynn?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, it's just kind of asking those awkward questions that they just don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to ask, but we have to keep asking them. We absolutely have to.
Yep.
And Jan has come up with another good point, which is insect protein. So that is something in terms of thinking about for a future talk in terms of how we can, so using insects to feed off waste to then generate the protein to then. So yeah, interesting. And certainly already being used in some pig and poultry diets. Anyway,
thank you to Joseph.
I always forget that. It was easier actually when he was on the screen. I remembered him a bit more this time.
Your words are so warming, Liz.
These two might actually have a scrap online, Lynn, and wouldn't that be great? Maybe that'll be the Christmas.
I should. I'll bring some mini dinosaurs in. Let's throw them into the mix as well.
I'm so emotional right now. I don't think I'll turn on my camera. Thanks, Liz. Those words.
Thank you, Joseph. As ever, you are my rock.
And thanks all for listening to us rambling on.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.